Hello and welcome. Have a look at this short clip where Douglas Bader, a World War II British fighter pilot, has returned from a successful mission. He was talking to his controller, Group Captain Woodhall, when Air Vice Marshal Trafford Leigh-Mallory arrived. They put together became known as the Big Wing, a tactic for meeting incoming Luftwaffe aircraft with as many as 3 to 5 squadrons. The Duxford Wing under Bader's command contrasted with the tactics used by Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, the commanding officer of Fighter Command's 11 Group. Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowding, commanding officer of RAF Fighter Command, had put a huge amount of effort into developing the world's first integrated air defence system, incorporating the chain-home radar stations, Royal Observer Corps ground observation posts, telecommunications and information processing. Using the tactics devised by Sir Hugh Dowding, Park met the raids with individual squadrons, which he considered to be the most flexible and effective use of his aircraft, particularly so in light of the shallow depth of penetration of British airspace by the Luftwaffe. Several squadrons hit Germans using hit-and-run tactics. This tactic was questioned by many of Park's subordinates, who were appalled by the high losses in 11 Group. In this battle of attrition, they wanted to employ larger formations to provide mutual protection and reduce British casualties. Leigh-Mallory, the commander of the neighbouring No. 12 Group to the north, was an advocate of the Big Wing policy, causing enormous friction in his relationship with Park. One of Leigh-Mallory's subordinates was the acting leader of 242 Squadron, Douglas Bader, who had flown over Dunkirk a few weeks earlier. Experience covering the French beaches against air attack had convinced Bader that large formations were essential, and with Leigh-Mallory's blessing, a wing was formed at RAF Duxford to try and prove the Big Wing theory. Supported by Duxford Station Commander Group Captain Woodhall, Bader's wing theory was developed over the next few days, initially involving 3 squadrons. On the 7th of September 1940, the Big Wing was scrambled operationally for the first time to patrol North Weald, but the formation arrived late. Bader acknowledged the fact that they were too slow forming up and the formation was too disjointed. Park had experimented with large wings and insisted that they were unwieldy, difficult to manoeuvre into position and rarely in the right place. Park pointed out that there was insufficient time over Kent and Sussex for 11 Group to form big wings at altitude to face incoming raids. Bader countered by pointing out that his wing could be used as a reserve for 11 Group. Providing adequate early warning was given and being positioned well away from the Luftwaffe's base in France, Bader could be in place at altitude when the wing was needed. Bader was delaying deployment of 12 Group fighters by insisting he lead the Big Wing. To do this, he had to fly 242 Squadron to Duxford from RAF Coltishall every day. Bader wanted time to fly to Duxford, land, take off again, and then form the Big Wing. The amount of early warning required for this was wildly unrealistic. Bader did not always follow ground control instructions and often flew into 11 Group on his own initiative. For such a large formation to succeed, there needed to be good planning and training. Its leadership had to follow Fighter Command's battle plan, but this was blatantly disregarded. Leigh-Mallory had a responsibility to make sure that at least it was organised properly. This clash of opinions between the 11 and 12 Group commanders was left unresolved by Leigh-Mallory and Dowding. A letter by Park in 1968 illustrates the problem. He wrote, "Throughout August and September 1940, on occasion, when all my squadrons had been dispatched to engage the many German bomber forces, I called on No. 10 Group to cover some vital targets on my right with 1 or 2 squadrons. Air Vice Marshal Brand always responded at once and on many occasions effectively intercepted the enemy, preventing them from bombing their target unmolested. In similar circumstances, I called on No. 12 Group to cover my fighter aerodromes north, east and east of London but Leigh-Mallory failed to respond. This resulted in North Weald, Hornchurch and Debden being accurately bombed while 12 Group Wing was being dispatched, assembled and climbed in mass formation to the rear of my area. In another letter Park wrote at the time, he said, "Frankly, I was more worried at the lack of cooperation with Leigh-Mallory than I was about outwitting the massed German raids." To this day there is debate over the effectiveness of the Big Wing. Although Leigh-Mallory and Barter argued it was a great success, post-war analysis suggests the actual number of German aircraft shot down by the wing was probably a fraction of those claimed. On the 15th of September 1940, the Big Wing was scrambled twice against incoming raids and claimed 52 kills, though German records show that 6 aircraft were lost. Battle of Britain pilot officer Tom Neal said that a German bomber might be attacked on 4 separate occasions as it fell from height, each pilot claiming a kill. Some senior officers like Leigh-Mallory and Sholto Douglas wanted to believe these claims so that they could use the Big Wing as a political tool against Dowding. When asked by the Air Minister to comment on American scepticism about rival RAF and German reports on losses during the Battle of Britain, Dowding replied, somewhat petulantly, that Americans would soon learn the truth, for if the Germans were right, they would be in London in a week. The most powerful argument against the Big Wing in the Battle of Britain was that without a clear idea of a target as a raid assembled over France, it was impossible for the Big Wing to get airborne and form up in time to meet it. Leigh-Mallory did not question Barter's claims or critically assess the Big Wing's results. For a senior commander to take the word of an inexperienced junior officer and commit to such a poorly planned experiment at a critical time is questionable. It must be noted that when encountered by the Luftwaffe on the 15th of September, the Big Wing had an immense psychological impact. Having been told that the RAF was down to its last 50 fighters by their leaders, Luftwaffe aircrew were continuously attacked on the run over Kent, only to be confronted by a further formation of 60 RAF aircraft over London, just as their escort reached the limit of their range. This led to further demoralisation in the Luftwaffe. One reason for this level of surprise was that a recent large Luftwaffe fighter sweep had encountered little resistance, confirming the Luftwaffe's leaders' belief that there were few RAF fighters left. Park had recognised this fighter sweep as a ruse to get his fighters into the air, and with no threat of bombing, he had kept his fighters on the ground. That's clever. Dowding had clashed with Hugh Trenchard, founder of the RAF, while both were Royal Flying Corps commanders during the First World War. Trenchard was retired by the Second World War, but he was a marshal of the RAF and still influential at the highest level in the RAF. He supported the theory of the knockout blow, where air attack was fought by counter-attack with bombers, not defence by fighters, and this view was shared by many senior RAF and Air Ministry personnel. Despite this RAF policy, Dowding got enough political support to build up fighter command into a very effective weapon, the weapon that won the Battle of Britain. The Big Wing debacle was a smokescreen manipulated by his political enemies to bring him down. After the Battle of Britain, Air Chief Marshal Charles Portal, the new Chief of the Air Staff, who had agreed with Leigh-Mallory, removed both Park and Dowding from their posts. What do you think? Were Dowding and Park correct in sending small, nimble and quick fighter assaults in target-rich environments? Or was the Big Wing tactic of Leigh-Mallory, Sholto Douglas and Barter better? Leigh-Mallory employed his new command in an aerial offensive against German-occupied France during 1941. The Luftwaffe massacred his Big Wings, achieving average kill ratios above 4 to 1. I think that's the answer. Thank you for watching.